Well, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Amazing Kitchen. Today, I will be showing you how to do a stir-fry beef noodle. It is a classic of the Asian dish. I mean, it's great for snacks, great for lunch, great for dinner, great for everything. As long as you have the ingredients, you can quickly whip it up, and it is very enjoyable by everyone. I enjoy it very much. So I'll be showing you how to make this with flank steak. All right, well, if you like the sound of that, let's get into cooking. Now for this dish, we'll start with 400 grams of flank steak and 2 eggs, 2 packs of noodles. This is egg noodles I'm using, and 1 medium onion and 1 bulb of garlic. So let's start by cutting the piece of flank steak. As you can see, the flank steak, there are some lines that run across the whole piece of steak. Those are called the grain lines. What you want to do for a nice tender cut is you want to cut perpendicular or 90 degrees from those grains. In that way, then you will get a nice non-chewy piece of meat. Now the key is to cut it thin and get as wide of a piece so you have a nice bite to it. Now first of all, you want to remove all the excess fat and the sheet. That's that thin layer of white coating on the meat. You want to remove every little bit of it because that is not chewable. If you leave some on your meat, it will become very chewy. It's not very pleasant. So remove as much as you can. Then we'll move on to slicing the meat. Now for the meat, it's very simple because it's not a very thick cut of steak. You want to cut at an angle. I'm cutting at a roughly 30 to 40 degrees angle, and we're getting as thin of a cut as you can. Now just make sure you cut against the grain and not with the grain, because the meat will be a little tough if you cut with the grain.
This will give us.
Now the cutting of the meat is done. We'll begin by marinating the meat. Add 1 tablespoon of light soy sauce, 1 teaspoon of garlic powder. Then add 1 tablespoon of cooking wine. If you have Chinese cooking wine or hua tiao jiu, then it adds a lot of aroma to the whole dish. Then add 1 tablespoon of sesame oil and 1 teaspoon of cornstarch. Now the cornstarch will help bind all the marinades together on the beef and keep it there so when you stir fry, it's all well coated and seasoned. Then finally, a half a teaspoon of salt. Then once everything is in, use a chopstick or a spoon or a fork of your choice and just marinate and mix everything together. Make sure there's no spots of ingredients that are not well mixed. Now once it's all mixed, set it aside in the fridge or on your counter. If you're ready to cook it now, keep it on your counter for the next 20 to 30 minutes and you'll be fine. Whisk 2 eggs in a bowl. Make sure the eggs are room temperature so it's easier to whisk. And then add a 1/4 of a teaspoon of salt, just for a little bit of a taste. After it's whisked, you set that aside, then we can move to the vegetables. Now start by cutting the onion. I remove both sides of the onion to help it easier to peel off the sheet. Now once the sheet is off, make sure you slice it into thin strips. But if you like to dice it or even leave it as a whole big chunk, feel free, go ahead. It really doesn't matter. Now once the onion is done, now we can move on to the garlic cutting. Now cut out both ends of the garlic bulb, then smash each clove, and then it will be easier to remove the sheet off of the garlic. Now you have a very hard time trying to peel it. Then once that's done, just dice it and keep it into small chunks. But if you like the taste of garlic and you like a chew of it, then make sure not to cut it too small and leave it a bit chunkier. So then you can taste it when you're eating the noodle. Now that the ingredients are all prepped and ready to go, let's move to cooking. Heat a wok under high heat and add 1 tablespoon of oil to it. Now, what I'm using here is rendered fat that I have stored up from previous recipes because the rendered fat contains a lot of flavor already in it. But if you don't have, it's okay, just use any kind of cooking oil. Peanut oil will be the traditional choice of oil. Once it begins to smoke, now you can add the beef to the wok And make sure you stir fry quickly to not allow it to burn. But you cook it for about a minute or two until it begins to brown a bit. Now while the meat is browning, let's heat a pot of water and add a little bit of salt to it to start cooking our noodles. Now for this dish, I'm only using 2 packs of noodles, but if you enjoy more noodles and less meat, then just go ahead and adjust the recipe accordingly. Okay, so now the meat is nice and brown. We push it to one side. We can add the onion and garlic to it now. Quickly stir fry it. Now once the aroma of the garlic and onion is released, it's time to add the egg also. Add the whisked egg to it, and then once the egg begins to pull off of the wok, it's time to add the noodle. Just stir fry the noodle very quickly, and then once it's all incorporated, you add a 1/4 cup of water to moisten everything and add a little bit of sauce to this mixture. We don't want it to be wet, we just want it to be moist. Then stir fry quickly. Once everything comes back up to heat, you add a little bit of sesame oil to finish everything off, because that's the last thing. Then turn off the heat and we're ready for plating. Now for plating, once it's all done, you can garnish it with some spring onion or some chopped chili over the top. Now let's give this beef stir fry noodle a try. The noodle is very tender and chewy. It is not overcooked, just right. The sauce coating this noodle is just enough. Now let's try the beef also. The beef is great also. It's well marinated, and it is, because it's thinly cut, it is not chewy and it's very nice. But if your cut of meat is a bit chewier than normal, make sure when you marinate, you add a little bit of baking soda in it as well, and that will help break down the surface protein and allow it to be less chewy. Well, I hope you enjoyed that dish very much. I mean, it is so easy and quick to prepare. I think the preparation must have took longer than the cooking itself. But then the eating was even faster. So yeah, so now is the time when I will tell you a little bit more about my obsession with the chili oil. Now's the time to add it over the dish, and if you have some or made some, now's the time to use it. Alright, enough of me ranting over this, because I'm obsessed over this for the last couple weeks and couple videos if you've been following. Now, this will be the last time I'll mention this. So enough of that. And other than that, I mean, it is quite straightforward and easy. Comment below and let us know if you've ever tried something like this, or if you made it at home. And if you have any questions on how to improve on it, you know, leave it in the description below. Alright, so I think that's about it. Make sure you subscribe and share this video and like it also, so then more people can also discover this amazing recipe. Alright, we'll see you on the next episode. Bye now.